What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Kofi Kingston, a.k.a. 1/3 of the New Day. You're not going to say it with me, sir? Yeah, come on, you better participate. Let's try it again. 1/3 of the New Day, and you are watching The Young and the Wrestlers. Ha 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 ha.
Welcome to The Young and the Wrestlers, the Pop Culture's WWE podcast, the show that takes a look at the soap opera nature of the WWE. We're talking characters, we're talking storylines, motivations, and a sprinkle of fantasy booking. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Betson. Alongside me tonight is not the usual Jem. It is my TCW tag team partner. It is the mullet. He himself is iconic.
Well, he doesn't like to brag, but he is. He's very iconic. I'm very good, sir. Very good. Pleased to be here. Pleased to be the unusual Jem, not the usual one.
This is our Clash of Champions in review. It comes at you this Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. on your podcast services, 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. For our regular show, so we talk about Raw and SmackDown, that's Thursdays, 8 a.m. podcast services, 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. If you want to join that wrestling conversation, head over to the Facebook group at facebook.com/group/thepopcultures, Twitter, Discord. All the links are in the down below area. If you want to watch this show live, you can head over to twitch.tv/thepopcultures, where you can watch it all happen. It's damn good fun. Be part of the chat, become part of the show. If you want to support us, you can head over to your iTunes or your podcast service. Be sure to give us a 5-star rating and a written review. Tell your friends, tell your family about the show. If you're on the YouTube, be sure to give it a like, maybe subscribe and comment down below. It would be muchly appreciated. If you want to support us financially, you can at patreon.com/thepopcultures, as well as our merchandise store, popculture.com/shop, where you can buy shirts and other assorted shit with our logos on it. Now I will address so Jem, no Jem this for this episode. She will be returning tomorrow when we record our episode of Raw or Raw Breakdown. Now the reason being that she's not here right now is that she's returned to work in terms of a new blood removal job, and she's got some late nights up ahead, and she didn't have time to get through Clash and get through Raw. And I watched Clash with the mullet here and with Craig, and I was like, you know what, Jem, watch Raw, get ready for tomorrow, and I'll bring in Craig. I'll bring in the old intern.
I'm a very old intern. That's very true.
So how are you, man? It's been a while since I've seen you around these parts.
It's been a while. We're doing our best teleconferencing where we can. Things are look. It's been a crappy year, but that's okay. You know what is good? The fact that we can still enjoy the wrestling, sit down, have a laugh, have a giggle, and talk some smack.
Yeah, man. It's been great being able to sort of like still watch the wrestling together, even though that you are like 15 minutes away. We just can't be in the same place to do it, so we do it as a collective shared experience through like Discord and stuff, which is teleconferencing.
We hook into the Matrix.
Yeah, it's all crazy. But let's get this started. Let's talk about Clash of Champions. It is the pay-per-view where every championship is on the line. So there's a lot. Well, not everyone, because a bunch of things change before going into the pay-per-view. So, straight off the bat, it was announced that Nikki Cross would not be competing for the SmackDown Women's Championship, as she was not cleared to compete. And that also went to Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler, who themselves were not cleared to wrestle. Therefore, the the Women's Tag Team Championship was not on the line. So, all the belts were not there.
Or wasn't it?
No, I don't think.
I believe it was an open challenge was thrown, but
that was for SmackDown. It was, but the women's tag titles were Nowhere to be seen.
No, you are correct.
All right, so we kick things off with this on the kickoff show, which originally was meant to be Zelena Vega versus Asuka. That was since moved on to the main card after this bit of news dropped. So instead, Shinsuke Nakamura and Cesaro versus the Lucha House Party was moved to the kickoff. And in no surprise, Shinsuke and Nakamura so Shinsuke, Nakamura, and Cesaro did retain. This was what I expected, Craig. Now, neither you or I did watch the kickoff because this result was such a given.
Well, it's not that it was a given. It's just I'd seen it 100 times already. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I love Cesaro. I've really come around recently on Nakamura. I've really started to understand him, I think. And Lucha House Party always do a good show. It was a solid match. For the bits I've seen, it was an awesome match. It's just there's other people. Maybe that's just me.
And that's the biggest issue that we have, because we'll get this out of the way now. They did announce during the pay-per-view that there is a draft coming up over next week, I believe. So we're similar to last year when we were at PAX and we were watching the WWE draft. We're getting that again. And so they're getting shuffled. Things are getting moved around in the future, which should be mad. Ideally, I'm going to put it out there, hashtag unify the tag belts. Needs to happen, ladies and gentlemen. There are not enough tag teams on Raw and or SmackDown to have their own titles. Bring them together. Share it across the two brands. That's what needs to happen. That should be part of the draft. That is what needs to happen. Just putting it out there.
Well, that's absolutely true. I mean, look at your biggest tags. Usos, missing a member. New Day, missing 2 members.
Yep.
It's just that, and let's be honest, they were the cream of the crop there.
Yeah, and like that was, then on top of that, you have like AOP have since been released, so they're no longer on Raw. Let's see what else we got going on. Our Ivar from the Viking Raiders is currently injured, so he and Eric cannot compete on the tag situation. Buddy Murphy and Seth Rollins are no longer working as a team, so that's not going to happen. Let's see. Heavy Machinery are doing something, but they're kind of in this weird place with the Money in the Bank with Miz and Morrison. Hey, hey, ho, ho. Forgotten Sons are straight up forgotten. There's not much. And like the Hurt Business, maybe, but they're in their own little storyline. So it's just it's a little bit chaos.
It would make sense to unify the belts, and look, maybe give it a year, and then once you build people back up and they get back into it,
once this whole pandemic sort of quietens down a little bit, and they can have more people return, or maybe bring up people from NXT, which also could happen in the draft as well. Maybe next thing Undisputed Era are up, and maybe they're doing something like that's certainly a possibility.
And don't forget, having said that, we see the same match over and over again. The pandemic is a big part of that. There's obviously so much intermingling that they can do, as has been proved by the fact that they've just lost 3 wrestlers with suspected, not yet confirmed by WWE, I don't believe, but suspected cases of the virus that shall not be named.
Well, and on top of that as well, so since this pay-per-view aired, the Retribution, they are out for the next 2 weeks because of their possible contact with someone who has the COVID. So that's interesting.
Well, gonna miss them.
Yeah, they were just getting good. First on the card was the Intercontinental Championship. It was Jeff Hardy versus Sami Zayn versus AJ Styles in a ladder match. As to be expected, this was a barn burner. I absolutely loved it, front to back.
I'm going to say it. Match of the pay-per-view for me.
Really? Yeah, I would agree with that too. So straight off the bat, we'll get the result, and then we'll talk about how it got there. So the winner was Sami Zayn after handcuffing Jeff's earlobe to a ladder and handcuffing AJ Styles also to the same ladder that he then used to climb to the top.
No, first he handcuffed AJ Styles to himself and then lay on the ground.
And then then did like the whole, like you're a child doing this dead body, just going all limp. It was beautiful. Amazing match, right? Like straight off the bat, it was brilliant. It didn't take too long at all for all the ladders to get involved. In no time at all, the ladders were getting in the ring.
Look, you got Jeff Hardy there, and he's a veteran of ladder matches, as we know. One of the most iconic gifs out there is him being speared by Edge in midair while hanging from the middle of the ring. He knows his ladder stuff, and it proved it again. He was doing stuff that made me fear for his life in this match. It was amazing.
Yeah, there were some great spots here. There was an upside-down ladder where he went to jump at AJ and landed right on the little, I want to say the trussel, whatever that little middle part is to hold the ladder.
Brace.
The brace gets like jacked up in the hip. Later on, Sammy's got it. He's got the ladder and he's trying to push it up a long ways, and he's pretending to crawl down it and then takes a brutal bump off the side. Another great small spot was when a step ladder was brought out, which always makes me laugh because what the fuck's that going to do? Then AJ proceeds to yeet that at Sami Zayn, collecting his hand and or face. It was fantastic. There was a lot here. There was a lot to take in here. It was brilliant.
There was another Jeff from the top of a ladder backflipping onto another horizontal ladder too. That move, it literally snapped the ladder in half.
Yeah, the swanton onto Sami, wasn't it?
Yeah, onto Sami.
Yeah.
It was it was everything you wanted from a ladder match. But it had Sami Zayn's personality all over the ending of it. And I think and that's what I liked about it. It wasn't just a ladder match. Sami Zayn got to inject his bit. But when the WWE does this, when they let the performers put themselves into it, let them do their own character, it works. I mean, who would have thought of handcuffing Jeff Hardy's earlobe to a ladder? But it worked for Sami Zayn. It worked beautifully.
So if anything, we got to see Sami here being just this brilliant asshole, brilliant jerk, just doing everything he needed to get that win. You know, in a ladder match, there are no rules. The only way to win and to whatever is to climb to the top and get those belts, which, you know, they're both Intercontinental Championships up there. You know, so by playing smart and using these cuffs, it just demonstrated that maybe Sami Zayn was the correct champion, and AJ and Jeff were both fraudulent champions.
AJ did look cut at the end of it, and I mean literally and figuratively. But and he was very quick to Sami was very quick to correct. Was it Charlie who went to talk to him and said, "You're now the new champion"? He said, "No, still the champion.
Yep.
I'm not the new champion." And I think I'm kind of in his corner.
Yeah.
He never handed in the title. It was taken off him. Officially, he still had the belt. I think we're going to see a very smug Sami at the next episode.
I agree, and that's what we saw here at the end. That big shit-eating grin, surrounded by beard, holding 2 titles. It was not. It was a situation where I was trying to think how this match was going to go. And I didn't think it was going to be AJ's. I had a feeling it was either going to be Sami's, because I don't know what else he's going to do right now, or Jeff's. But yeah, the second that I saw it, the way it went in the end, I was like, nope, this is going to Sami, and he deserves it with this level of tactical ability, and planning out and getting this win.
Oh, he certainly stepped up. It wasn't just Jeff Hardy doing the high flying. He did his bit, and he did some great stuff. I was impressed by, as I said, my match of the event. Well, there's a very close second, but we'll get to that one.
Next up, so we'll just get this did appear throughout the show. There was the 24/7 Championship, which for some reason refuses to die. It was almost lost in the ocean on Raw last week. I don't know why they didn't just let it float away and never return. But apparently they still want it around. So Gulak does defeat R-Truth, becomes champion by pinfall. Then a little bit later, R-Truth gets it back, all while dressed as a prospector for some reason. Because
a lot of people missed that. They didn't get what he was being dressed as. But yes, a prospector. It was a gold rush. I got it. But I mean, you're right. I mean, picture this. Imagine if it had drifted away and they'd left it for a while. And then a year later, R-Truth is walking sadly down the beach, and it floats back into view, and they could restore it then.
But then on top of that, it's all like weathered, and it kind of looks like garbage, and therefore they can repurpose it. They can make it look different. You know, they can bring it to be something else. You know what I mean? Like my big argument on it right now is because I think Underground's getting to projecting to a place where it may need its own title. Why not take the 24/7 and essentially make a new hardcore title? Break it up, make it look like shit. and then repurpose it as the, like someone takes it like this 24/7 champions and the Underground Championship. I dare you to come get it, R-Truth.
Yeah, well, exactly. Have somebody who features in Underground, like
Old Dick Grabber.
Bubba Ganoush or whatever his name is.
Bubba Cato.
Bubba Cato, sorry. Bubba Cato.
Bubba Ganoush.
Imagine him getting the 24/7 title and then just daring R-Truth to take it off.
And then he just picks up and takes it. Or Shane McMahon, as Mad Dog says. Maybe Shane can take it as well. And then he... that's a good idea, actually. If Shane takes it, he's like, it's mine now, I'm taking it to Underground. So rather than it being an actual competitor,
that would work.
It's him sort of taking it across.
Yeah, good call, Mad Dog.
That's a good call. Actually, I think that's probably the best way to, if they ever do make that transition, because I think the 24/7 really only worked during crowds and when they could go to other places, like, when we saw it at the NFL and we saw it over at the Fox headquarters and stuff like that. That's where it needs to be. Like when it's stuck within the building, we're seeing Akira, who's presumably been, Tozawa, who's presumably been eaten by sharks. Gulak is doing things like there's not a whole lot. They need to take it away for a while or bring it over to Underground because it's something to do between now and then.
Yeah, it doesn't really work in lockdown.
Yeah,
and that's just it's unfortunate. I mean, I enjoyed it. I was really enjoying 24/7 there for a while, but it needs a crowd.
Mad Dog also mentioned, speaking of the Fox HQ, I hope we get to see that robot mascot in the war during the draft. I hope we see that robot again. It made no sense last year, and I think it'll make less sense this year.
I hope it gets a vote. That's what I say.
I hope it gets drafted.
Yes.
Next up was the Raw Women's Championship, Asuka versus Zelena Vega. This was pretty solid, actually. A lot better than I originally anticipated. Yeah. I expected a squash match, but it didn't go that way. However, Asuka did still retain. She did defeat Vega with a Asuka lock after a nice little flurry of pin attempts on both of them.
Yeah, that ending flurry was magnificent. It was just back over and flipping through. Vega did a great match considering she's had this is her second match back from being a manager, really. Yeah,
not even. Yeah, so she came, this is her first sort of singles run. So she stepped away from managing Zelena and her boys. They're just the boys now, although it can't be the boys because that's a different trademark right now. So Zelena's out and about doing her own thing. She has a shot. Does a great job, I might add. She really holds her own. I think even coming out of this with an L, she's still looking fantastic.
She absolutely got over in this one, yes.
Yeah. But thankfully, Zelena's mean streak is still around because at the end of it, Asuka is getting an in-ring interview where she, in a fantastic attempt in English from Asuka, because we say that very rarely, she talks about how Vega is a firecracker, how she is, quite dangerous. Then she goes to offer her hand for a shake. Yep. Vega denies the handshake. We're thinking, Vega, you dirty bitch. Instead... She bows, a nice sign of respect, and we're like, oh, shit. And then Asuka does the same, and then gets kicked in the guts, and then proceeds to abuse the piss out of her in Japanese while Zelena slinks off.
Indeed. She was not happy with her. As Dash, who was watching it with us, said, always remember, always look in eye. As Mr. Miyagi said.
Very true.
Asuka took her eyes off Zelena. She paid the price.
That's right. I love this, though. Because there is that arrogance. There is that I guess no, it's not confidence. It's straight up arrogance when it comes to Zelena Vega. We've seen that for the longest time as she was a manager, and it's good to see it here as well. So even though in defeat, she's still her. She didn't, mope. She's like, there's still that fire. There's still that push. I don't think that, obviously, neither you or I have watched Raw yet this week. As far as I'm considering, I think Vega's going to get another go. I think she will get another shot. Maybe not right now. Maybe a little bit later. But I don't think she's done.
Based on this, absolutely. I mean, I thought for a second that maybe they were toying with the idea of turning her face. But no, I think what she did. We'll definitely see her again. And a bit of an injection into the women's roster there. She's been out. Was she injured at all?
No, she's just been a manager for the longest time. So she tends to make appearances around the Royal Rumble, where she comes in as one of the entrants. But 9 times out of 10, she had just been the manager for Andrade.
Yeah. Well, we've got a few new women coming into it, so it'll be good to shake it up. Mm-hmm. We were seeing the same old faces.
Because that is one of the arguments that we've had around the women's division as well. Now, once again, the pandemic has also been a big part of that issue, with there being not quite enough women to take on Asuka for that Raw Women's Championship. So if you think about it, we got Sasha. Sasha is over there now. You've got Mandy Rose has just come across. There's a lot of like the B level women in the likes of Dana Brooke, Lana, Natalia. Natalia's not a B, but you know what I mean. Like there's not that big hitting of women. Peyton Royce, of course, as Mad Dog mentioned in the chat, she's getting a little bit of a singles run right now as well. There's a lot happening, but with the loss of Charlotte Flair, with the loss of Becky Lynch, those big women are lacking on Raw, so there is plenty of opportunity for a bunch of women to step up. And Zelena, if she plays her cards right, she may be one of those women. Who knows?
Yes, well, they've already been teasing a new entrance as well.
Mm.
I always forget her name, which is not what you want. Sorry, if you excuse me, my voice has just decided to crack on me.
Hadouken.
Pardon, Hadouken, that's it. Oh, dear. No, we're getting those teasers for the... the mystery woman, which is presumably Carmella. Yeah. Carmella, thank you.
Yeah. So that obviously that's over the SmackDown side of things, though. Whether we see that drift across, who knows? But once again, with the draft coming up in the coming weeks, we could see this change. So even what I'm saying right now around who could be a potential Raw Women's Champion contender, it could change in a matter of a week.
Well, and it usually does, but I like what I'm seeing, and as long as they're showing that they're willing to adapt, and we'll get to that in a moment, they do show some great thinking on the fly during this match for some emergency reprogramming, and maybe there's potential there. We shall see.
Potentially. So next up was the United States Championship matches, Bobby Lashley versus Apollo Crews. Not a match that neither you or I gave a lot of investment into. Bobby Lashley did retain here. He did, Apollo Crews did once again tap out to the, what's it called? Like the Hurt Lock, whatever it is, the full Nelson thing.
The Lash Lock,
the full Lashley, which sounds like a sex thing. The Hurt Lock, it is the Hurt Lock. Thank you, Mad Dog.
You never go full Lashley.
You never go full Lashley, or once you go full Lashley, you never go back. See,
Bashley,
Baxley, yeah, that works.
Anyway,
this is kind of where I saw this going. It was a situation of I didn't see the belt drifting between the two of them, because that's where the story is going. It's been a bit of this, bit of that, bit of this, bit of that. But it has been, 2 consecutive wins now, I believe, maybe even 3 for the Hurt Business. That belt is not going anywhere. It looks good on Bobby Lashley, and I believe it should stay there. But
there
once
were no
again,
surprises.
With the whole draft, we did see the mid card titles change brands last year. We saw the big champions change brands last year. Who knows what could happen?
That's true.
Because those mid card titles, they do need a bit of a refresh when it comes to the competitors.
To competitors, and just to give them legitimacy again. It's not to say that they're not legitimate wrestlers. They are, but they need to be. There's no challenge at the moment. It's either one of 2 people will hold the belt, and that's no mystery. Got to have the mystery back.
I agree.
And there was no mystery in this match, even in the result. Let's be honest. So
no, pretty much, yeah. And once again, it's if anything, the second that I saw that Hurt Lock be put in place, I was like, nah, Crews is out. Knowing that he had been taken out for a number of weeks back earlier the year due to that full Nelson, I was like, nope. The second that locked in, like he's gonna have to tap because he can't risk that injury that he received last time. Lashley forced his hand. Very, very good tactical decision. pardon me, by Bobby Lashley there.
Forced both his hands.
Both his hands behind his head, in fact. Next up, Raw Tag Team Championship, Street Profits versus Andrade and Angel Garza. It did end in a win to the Street Profits in an interesting result. So there was a 3 count. There was a 3 count, but Andrade clearly kicked up at 2 and a bit. But the ref's decision is final. Not much we can do there. That is where it's at. Kayfabe removal for a second here, Craig. Garza did receive an injury. There was a thrown up X. By the looks of it, an audible had to be called, and the match was called then and there, with the Street Profits taking the win. I have a feeling that the Profits were meant to lose here. That was where it was going, but the second that the Garza was unable to continue, they can't have them win the title because if it's an X, who knows what it could be, who knows how long he could be out for.
Yeah, it looked legit. When they cut to him briefly when he was lying there, he did look like he was in considerable pain, grabbing at his hip, I believe.
Grabbed his hip and or left thigh. You see it early on. You see.
It could have been that. Oh, it could have been a hammy the way he went down.
Yeah, it could have been a hamstring. Could have been like that. So that sort of region, he did look pretty incapacitated. You see his leg just stiffen. He just drops. The tag happens and they swap over. But yeah, so it's a bit shit. Because I had my bets on them getting the win here and heading on into a bit of a run there after showing some strength with Zelena off their side. You know what I mean?
Indeed. It's well, let's be honest. Ever since she's left, they've won every match except this one.
Yeah. But this one looks to be out of their control. So
yeah. So who was holding who back? That's the question.
That's a big question. That's what the vibes that I got. And sadly, it turns out it was Angel Garza's hamstring. Next up was the SmackDown Women's Championship. As we mentioned, Nikki Cross had not been cleared to compete. Therefore, she had to pull out. Bayley instead makes her way into the ring and decides to issue an open challenge to anyone that could give it a go. Come on in. Next thing, fucking Asuka comes in. Asuka, one of the only women to beat Bayley when she was drifting between brands with the SmackDown with the women's tag titles. This was great.
Considering how little time they had to come up with a solution, inspired.
Yeah, so knowing that this was would have been a last minute match. Shout out to Asuka. As I said while we're watching it, Craig, the amount of trust and respect that they must have for Asuka to last minute go out and deliver is understandable. She's brilliant, and I think we saw it here again. I'm yet to be disappointed by Asuka at all. And
she's a worker.
And once again, this works as well. So you can see it in Bayley's face. She has, Asuka, she's been women's champion for was it 200 and 100 and something days, a fuckload of time, nearly a year. So she, as the longest running SmackDown Women's Champion, there was a lot of the line here. So when you see the one woman to pin you in this year, you poo yourself. I think Bayley pooed her new pants.
That's a shame, because they were very yellow and shiny.
They were very yellow and shiny. but so go ahead.
Well, I mean, it was a solid match. You could see Asuka was tired, but she does never not perform, he said in a really bad attempt at English, which is strangely in keeping with the fact I'm talking about Asuka at the moment. So, it was a good match. It was a solid match, but We didn't get a result in this one.
No, so Asuka technically won by disqualification when Bayley brought out a chair. Now, once again, once I saw it heading in this direction, I'm like, no, this is the safest bet for Bayley to go. She can take the L here, but she can also retain her title, and that's sort of her big motivator coming into this match. You know, Asuka 2 belts would be rad. Asuka or 2 titles.
Asuka to title.
That's not racist. That's what it translates to.
That's an actual translation of Asuka 2 titles. I looked it up.
So it was the right call. Absolute right call for Bayley. She brings out the chair, smashes across Asuka's back, forcing that disqualification. Then Sasha Banks comes in, proceeds to do the same. They bush for a little while.
There was a kendo stick involved at one point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was nice. And let's be honest, it sets up 2 options for the next pay-per-view, which I believe is Hell in a Cell.
It is Hell in a Cell.
I mean, depending on how Banks is going, there could be a Hell in a Cell match, her versus Bayley.
That's what I want. That is what I want so bad, and I'm pretty sure I predicted it like a month and a half ago. I was like, we're going to get it. We're going to get Sasha versus Bayley, Hell in a Cell. Sasha versus Becky last year at the HI2C was brilliant. Mm-hmm. And I think we can get the same level of awesome with Sasha.
But the other option is Bayley Asuka.
Maybe Survivor Series.
Maybe Survivor Series. Maybe.
Because I'm pretty sure EO still holds. Imagine that. EO, Asuka, and Bayley.
Oh.
Or EO, Asuka, and Sasha.
Still good.
All good. All options are good. I'm so excited for Survivor Series. Yeah, next up, the WWE Championship match, Drew McIntyre versus Randy Orton in a Bambalance match. So it's the first to incapacitate their opponent and put them in the ambulance and close both doors. Pretty fantastic match, I'm going to have to say. Overall, like every match of this card was very impressive. It did end with Drew McIntyre getting the win after not just Claymore kicking Randy's face in, he then proceeds to punt him as he hangs out the back of the Bambalance, pushes him in, shuts those doors. Craig, what do you think of this match?
I get why he did it. I would have liked it if he didn't.
No, I thought it was beautiful.
If he didn't stoop to Randaddy's level, because Randaddy is a whole nother level.
Mm.
And he had the win with the Claymore kick. Randy wasn't going anywhere, considering what else had happened to him during the match. But no, he did what he did, and he was absolutely justified. Broken jaws and all. So, can I say, looking the best I think I've ever seen him. Currently, Drew McIntyre is looking cut.
He is looking jacked. He is looking
like he was
very,
chiseled out of marble
good.
an hour before the match. But it was a good match. It was. I've seen better matches from both of them, but I don't think I've seen them have a better match together. If that makes sense. It was good, including that they went backstage. It went all around the performance center or wherever it is they have these things now. I always forget the name of this new place.
The Thunderdome.
Thunderdome. How do I forget that? It was a good match. It was. There was a lot of back and forth and a few surprises along the way.
Yeah, so one nice little surprise was the a number of people that Randaddy had wronged in his little run here over the summer, the US summer. Mm-hmm. We saw Big Show come up and chokeslam him through the table. We saw Shawn Michaels super kick him, bit of sweet chin music on the Bambalance, then yeets him off it. We saw Christian punch the shit out of him in catering. And then we saw Ric Flair drive the ambulance out of the building.
Although it makes me wonder, what was Ric Flair going to do if Randaddy won?
Just driven out the building. And they would have just been like, oh, he liked Ric Flair. You know, Ric Flair liked him this whole time.
Yeah, maybe.
You know, because they were bros, Evolution bros.
Still, he shouldn't have been driving Evolution Bros. He shouldn't have been driving in an ambulance without a door, though. That's a safety issue.
Yeah, or a busted ass windscreen. That was gnarly. But there was some really good things here. What we saw, we did see Drew McIntyre take a big beating to Randy Orton. Even so much so, there was he almost sort of forgot where he was. You know, he was on the front of the ambulance. He had just put Drew through the windshield. He and then attempts to go for a pin because his brain is just elsewhere. He had been rocked so hard.
Yep, and has had Drew McIntyre, who that windshield cut him up something bad on the back there. There was a lot of free-flowing blood. Yeah,
and which was said to them is to spread across the arena, which was not a bad thing. I enjoyed it thoroughly. But as I mentioned, this is not how I thought this was going to go. I was confident that Randy was going to get the win here after his heelish tactics, after the dominance that he has shown over Drew and the legends and anyone that stepped in his way over the last couple of months. I was confident that he was going to take the win here.
Absolutely.
But also because selfishly, I was hoping to head in towards a Keith Lee Randaddy match.
Well, there's nothing saying it can't still happen. There's, as I said, there's a couple of big pay-per-views still to go this year that they could well lead to. But I don't know what, as I said, now that this has happened and now he's retained, where does that leave Keith Lee?
It's one of those things. Keith was meant to have the title shot, but Randaddy took it away from him.
Indeed.
So maybe we'll see that, and potentially, Keith's pretty face right now. As you mentioned, Drew McIntyre's decision to punt Randaddy Orton wasn't the most face thing to do.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe we'll see Drew take a little bit of a shift, to sort of set up to Keith versus Drew McIntyre coming up shortly.
All right, I'm going to say it. I'm going to throw it out there. Hell in the Cell, triple threat match.
Triple threat, Randaddy,
Keith. Drew McIntyre, Keith. Salivating?
Yeah, I just want to see someone get yeeted from the ring into the cage.
Oh, yes.
Just douche, gush, gush. That's what I want. I want pinballs.
Yep. I could get behind that. I don't know if we'll see it, but it would be an awesome match.
Yeah. Yeah, so look, with an ambulance match, we hadn't seen one in a while, so there's a little bit of a novelty here in that perspective. Did you think this match lived up to its little novelty that we hadn't seen it in a good window?
Not necessarily. It could have just as easily been a last man standing match.
Mm-hmm. But we saw that with Edge, so I understand why they probably didn't want to give Randy another last man standing.
That's true. Okay, no, that's fair enough. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, look, it works as a mechanic. I mean, kayfabe aside for a moment, I mean, it's, it adds another level. An ambulance implies that you are genuinely hurt. You can't get out, therefore, medically, you require assistance. So, it adds that little air of danger, I guess, to it. But ultimately, it's like the Buried Alive match. It's a different way of finishing an otherwise no DQ match.
Yeah. Mad Dog in the chat goes, Ryan just wants his Survivor Series dream. I do want my Survivor Series dream. I want the Roman Empire versus the Legion versus the Prince. That's Finn Balor, Roman Reigns, Keith Lee. That's what I want to see because I love the branding alone is fantastic.
Now I want to see that too.
You've got all these. You got the Prince, and you've got that traditional royalty. You've got the Roman Empire. The name sells itself. The Legion. There's tons of legions throughout time. The marketing on this alone sells itself.
Yeah, that would be spectacular. But would Roman Reigns? What are they doing with him now? And we'll get to that in a moment, I guess.
We'll get into that right now. In fact, the main event of the night was Roman Reigns versus Jay Uso in a pretty brutal beatdown. We had Roman Reigns wanting Jay to claim to pronounce him as the tribal chief. Jay was giving him nothing. He refused to bow down. They just bushed the living piss out of each other.
He did, and look, Jay stepped up. He absolutely stepped up. This was a title match, and he proved that he should be given singles contention. Absolutely.
And on top of that as well, what we did see is we saw Roman Reigns essentially beat his family, a family member, his cousin, his blood. Like, if that doesn't show you where Roman Reigns is now, I don't know what would.
Oh, and some of the back and forth in the ring now that we can hear it because there's no crowd was just it was amazing. I was quite caught up in it at one point because I believe Roman Reigns needed that acknowledgement. He wanted it. He needs to hear those words from him, not from Heyman, although he did try.
And this is like this. So this is not the Roman Reigns that we had seen a year ago. This is not the Roman Reigns.
No.
It is different. Like, is that he is punching his family member to prove a point, to make it to take a title, not a championship, but a name title that he believes he deserves. Now, I'm going to still argue that this is leading to WrestleMania, Rock versus Roman Reigns for the title of the tribal chief, but that's a little bit a ways away here. But it was so much so that Jay was just refusing, holding his own, not backing down until Jimmy had to run in and essentially be like, quote, "We're family. What the hell is wrong with you? Yeah, you're the chief. You're the tribal chief. Just leave him alone."
Yeah, he said, "I'll say it," but Jay wouldn't.
Jay wouldn't cave, and
he was begging his brother not to throw it in. He said, "Don't do it, don't do it." It's always tricky when you get family involved. These guys, you can see they've grown up together. They've known each other, their whole lives. They are family, and it's always an added level of complexity when family's involved.
But yeah, no,
and I believed it. I did.
Me too. And then it did end with Jimmy throwing in the towel. Causing the win to Roman Reigns, who retains, who got the little what are they called, the lay from Paul Heyman, not as hot as you think, and then that retains, and that ended the show.
There's your new shirt, Paul Heyman, not as hot as you think.
I was honestly quite impressed with that match. It was good. Really good.
The match itself, as I said at the start, although the ladder match was my favorite, this was a very close second. It was a really good match.
Yeah,
they both got into it. Roman Reigns thought he was just going to steamroller over Uso, and he did not. Uso stepped up, and it's going to be interesting to see because there's a lot of family they're talking about, and not just he might be the tribal chief, but we've still got Rikishi out there. We've still got, the other big dogs in the family as well. So it'll be interesting to see whether we see any appearances from them over the coming weeks.
Yeah, and on top of that as well, because to add to your point, the reason that Roman orchestrated Jay to be in this match was because, the idea of your family, you're going to do what's good for us. You need to take the L. I need you to throw the match. But you're having Jay do the polar opposite demonstrated, that Jay is a man of his word. He's a man of not pride, but a man of honor. And then for him, although they're the same family, for him, it's the legacy that he needs to retain. He needs to keep the honor in the Samoan dynasty. So if he was to take the L here to help Roman, both of them would be doing a disservice to the family here.
It essentially was a match, pride versus honor. Roman Reigns' pride, his need to be the tribal chief, whereas for Jay, it was all about the family and the honor of the family.
Yeah,
and it's I don't know. It's going to be interesting how it plays out from here. The ultimate test of any match and any show was, do you want to tune in next week? And I absolutely do.
Yeah, no, SmackDown is delivering something so much better right now. So I was like, yes, I do.
Yes. That's a big 10-4 from me.
Yeah. Well, that does bring us to the end of the pay-per-view. Craig, what did you think of it? Well, break it down, give you your final thoughts. Then we'll go into our not-so-patented Kurt Angle reviewing system.
It was definitely one of the best pay-per-views they put on this year. They've had a few non-events. They've had a few but this, from God, every match was at least technically good. Admittedly, I wasn't invested in a couple of them. But that's no reflection on the actual matches themselves. It's more on, out of kayfabe again, but more on the writing than anything else.
Yeah.
Technically, though, the matches, the things I've seen, I enjoyed it. I got excited when I was watching the ladder match. I got invested in the Tribal Chief debacle. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think this is, of all the ones they put on this year, it's definitely a step up for them.
I agree. And using the not-so-patented Kurt Angle rating system?
I'm going to give this... look, if I follow that through, I'm going to give this the thumb and the bar.
The Kurt and the bar?
Kurt and the bar.
Love it. I'm in a similar boat. I'm a Kurt and a bar as well. The only reason I went the bar rather than two Kurts, because so for us it's rated on feeling, it's not rated on any sort of real critique. Is like there were the issues. Obviously, the issues with the Raw Tag Team match. I felt that should have gone another way, but those things were out of our control, was out of their control. It just was a little bit and sadly, the United States Championship match I couldn't give any poos about. So that was very difficult for me to even faintly pretend to care there, but everything else I had a reasonable investment in. This was I think it was just over 3 hours. It was a really good pay-per-view in terms of timing. It felt like it didn't have any major dips apart from the US, but even then the match was still, as you mentioned, technically good. There was nothing here below average. There was no failure of a match here. All of them delivered. I felt all of them progressed the story. Even when Bayley's match was put in a position to have a last-minute change, they were still able to provide some new story elements to continue that moving forward, even with some last-minute. And actually add another layer of depth to it by having Asuka get involved. You said Roman Reigns, brilliant, fantastic. That's a story that I really give a shit about right now, and I cannot wait to see that moving forward. Overall, like bit by bit, I'm just like, love it.
Everything was average or better. There was no below average in it.
There was like exactly.
Give it a solid B+.
Yeah, as I say, Kurt and a bar, 75%, because we only work in 25% intervals. But anyways, thank you everyone for joining us for this Clash of Champions review. This show came at you at a Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. on your podcast services, 9 a.m. include on the YouTubes. If you want to watch our regular show where we talk Raw and SmackDown, that one comes at you every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. on your podcast services, 9 a.m. on those YouTubes. If you want to join the conversation, you can head over to facebook.com/group/thepopculturist, as well as our Twitter, Instagram, Discord. All those links are in the down below area. If you want to watch the show live, you can, twitch.tv/thepopculturist. You can also get in the chat, become part of the show, do some things. It's good fun. You can also support us by telling your friends, telling your family about this wrestling pod. You can also, on your podcast service of choice, give us a 5-star rating, a written review, or if you're watching us on the YouTube, be sure to like, subscribe, leave a comment below. If you want to support us financially, you can, patreon.com/thepopculturist, and our merchandise store, popculturist.com/shop, where you can buy shirts, other assorted shit with our logos on it, which currently is on a 35% discount. Have you ever considered buying PopC merch? No, I didn't think so. But hopefully 35% may entice you just a little bit.
I can't believe you do all that with one breath. That's amazing, dude.
It's pretty close. I've done it enough times now, so I can just kind of roll with it. But thank you, Craig, for stepping in and helping us out while Jem is taking a day. For those that want to, Craig can be found over at The Mullet Show. That is on twitch.tv/The Mullet Show. That is the Facebook page. It is also here on Twitter,
all the socials.
The Mullet Show. And sometimes he comes around these parts. It's good stuff.
Occasionally.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. But until tomorrow, where we come back to talk about Raw, I'm Ryan Betson.
I'm the Mullet.
And we'll see you then.
I just saluted something that's basically audio, didn't I?
You did.
Nice.
You did. The Young and the Restless, the Pop Culturist WWE podcast, is fan support over at Patreon at patreon.com/thepopculturist. And we'd like to thank our Patreon producers and our Patreon founders for their kindness, their support, and their generosity. Our Patreon founders: Alpha Ferret, Craig O'Flaherty, David Chataway, Jesse Stevenson, and Jacob Garner. And our Patreon producers: AJ Abatomi, Damian Holdies, Kyle Dunn, Lee Wintershoven, Nathan Massetti, Paul James, Pure Mongrel, and Sean Levitt.